Councillor Fontaine.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I won't be supporting this tonight, and I'm thinking about the citizens out there who are working hard, slogging away at their jobs, seeing no pay increases year over year. Perhaps they've been laid off. They're struggling to pay the bills. And we are talking about a 50% increase in the grant program. And it's not like we were at the bottom of the heap and then moving us to the top. We were already at the top. And now we're at platinum, like we're gone beyond the gold level. We're moving this up to platinum. You know, I've said this before and I'll repeat it again. You know, when you're in the Board of Governors, you have to make sometimes tough decisions. And there's a lot of things that I agree with Councillor McAvoy. We had unlimited funds. If there was a bank vault there, I would go and grab it and give out millions of dollars of grants, but that's not how it works. It's the people who are working every week. It's the people who are unemployed, the people who are seniors, the people who own their homes, they're paying their taxes, sending fees and costs into City Hall. That's where that money comes from. And to just arbitrarily pick a number, 50%, something that didn't come from the staff, but was a politically driven decision to pick the number 50%. To me, the timing is just all wrong on this stuff. We are going to be having one heck of a challenge in this next 2026 budget. We're going to have a very difficult time keeping that property tax increase under 30% this term. And that's a serious amount of money in cash that we've taken out of people's households. And some may dismiss it as a cup of coffee once a week or whatever. It's not. It's real money to real people. And to be tonight just voting for this and moving forward and saying throw this into the 2026 budget, a 50% increase, I just can't do that. As much as I would love to be able to support and provide additional grants, the timing isn't good. We know the economy is bad. We know people are struggling. And we know that 50% on top of what is already the gold-plated standard in terms of Metro Vancouver when it comes to civic grants is, from my perspective, irresponsible as a Board of Governors. Perhaps in a few years when things are a bit different and the economy's changed, perhaps, maybe we'll talk about that. But tonight, as we're going into a budget where we have to fund police, we have to fund, more bylaw officers, we have to fund a whole bunch of librarians and other folks, to me, to earmark a 50% increase, that just the timing isn't good. So I'm sorry, I can't. I know I supported it in August, but I've heard loud and clear from people when I did support it that they felt we need to sharpen our pencils and be a bit more careful around just throwing around cash left and right. And I take that seriously, and that's a result. That's why I'm reversing my initial support in August, and I won't be supporting this tonight. Thanks. I'm putting this on the floor, given that the staff have come back with a report which stemmed from a motion that was approved, I believe, in August of this year, for which I believe I supported at the time. I've had an opportunity to talk to a number of folks since that initial application has come in, and I think it's important to note that the grants budget, should there be a 50% increase, and that number itself was just arbitrarily chosen kind of out of thin air, but that the grants budget was set to rise from $978,450 to $1.467 million. And that equates to, from what I understand, about a 0.4 property tax hike in 2026. And when I look at, and I had further opportunity to delve into how we compare, and that goes back to a previous report from, I believe, last year in July of 2024, if I remember correctly. The city already ranks as one of the highest in Metro Vancouver on a per capita civic grant funding. So I look at Richmond, I think, is the closest at 880, Surrey's 691,000. Goes all the way down to places like Port Moody at 43,000 and Maple Ridge at about 25,000. So New Westminster, if this were approved, as was previously discussed with the motion, we would by far, I believe, have the highest in Metro Vancouver and per capita civic funding. And I think that when we're looking at this, we need to be doing this in the context of need. And I think there's, there's never, there's no end of requests. I'm sure there's lots of folks who would love us to be able to add additional dollars here. But I'm trying to juxtapose this against a lot of other funding requests. And like I've said earlier and multiple times, we're looking at a potentially nearly 30% property tax increase over the course of this term in office. And to just throw a number out of increasing by 50% at a time when we're trying to have some fiscal sustainability and some measures to keep the 2026 budget under control. As they say, timing is everything. And to me, while I support adding more funds into here, the timing is everything. And right now, the timing is not good. It has not been good for the last number of years, given where we've been at for property tax increases. Furthermore, I am looking at this particular proposal and looking at the information in terms of the data for unmet demand. The staff report, from what I can tell, it makes it clear that there's no data showing unmet demand that requires a 50% increase. Because from what I recall, the number of funded applications has actually declined and not grown. I don't believe there's any cost-benefit analysis or regional benchmarking. There's no performance framework to measure what these grants achieve. In other words, we're being asked to spend about $500,000 more without knowing what impact the current million is already having. So I don't particularly think that's good governance, and I also don't think that taxpayers would see that as particularly very responsible. So my motion doesn't eliminate or reduce the grants program. It simply says, let's pause this 50% increase, send it back for a proper review. And as noted, the review would do some benchmarking, some needs analysis. And if when the report comes back, there's some good evidence there to show that there's huge demand. Because remember, this never came from staff. This was not a staff-driven request. This was a political request from council to increase it at an arbitrary number of 50%. I'd like to be able to hear back more with that analysis from staff that 50% is warranted. There's some direct outcomes, et cetera, and this motion will provide for that if that gets approved. So I'm hoping to get approval from council and look forward to hearing the comments.
A couple of reviews over the process over the last couple of years. And I'm supportive of where the process is. I just think that it was clear in the delegations that got us to this point that there is a challenge with. I won't talk too much about the rest of it, other than I think this steps us back. And I'll save the rest of my comments when we talk about the best motion if this is defeated. I will call the question. All in favor of this recommendation? All opposed? It's defeated by Councillors Campbell, McAvoy, Henderson, and Nakagawa, and Mayor Johnstone.